Hi dear friends and welcome to my new video. As our students speak or write, they make mistakes. And of course this is normal. Some of these mistakes happen due to the pressure of time in real-time situation. So while students are speaking or writing, they want to write or speak very fast. And under this pressure of time and speed, they make some kind of slips. And actually, if the students will read their text again, they will be able to detect or to find out their mistakes, to find where the mistakes are. They are aware of their mistakes. This means that they have the knowledge. So in this kinds or concerning this kind of mistakes, the teacher doesn't need to deal with or to take action towards that. These are kind of slips that normally happens even for native speakers. Okay, now what about other types of mistakes? So there are other types of mistakes which are frequent in your lessons or in your course, and these are the mistakes which indicate that students have issues with the language or with their interlanguage. And interlanguage here, in brief and very simply, is kind of the way between first and second language, or the bridge between first and second language. So now we want to find out where mistakes are and to have or to deal with that. Traditionally, we used to have a kind of reaction teaching. So students speak, teacher takes notes and then provides feedback. Students write, teachers collects handouts or papers or worksheets and then corrects errors. This is a kind of reaction. So in this video, we will try to find or to introduce an activity which aims to help teachers to take action themselves in order to find out why or what kind of issues the students have, and consequently find or try to find solutions for these problems. So now we will start by an activity together or with an activity. I will show you a short text. Please read it carefully and translate it into your first language. Yes, translate. So please pause the video, find the piece of paper and the pen quickly, read carefully, translate, and replay. Okay. So now I'm so sorry to tell you that you will have to pause the video again and to do another task. So your next task is to translate back your version or your text that you have just produced now in your first language, translate it back into English without looking at the original text. So now, without looking at the original text, pause the video, translate back the text into English, and then replay. Okay, so now I will show you the original text, and I want you to compare your text or your version against the original text and see how similar it is, or is there any major difference or not. I'm sorry. Okay, now what about this? Can we do this in class? Sure. And why? So, of course, we need to do these kinds of activity in class, and I will not talk about or discuss the debate on whether translation is allowed in class or not, because this is a big thing. But this is an example of how effective translation could be in your classroom. So when students do so, they become more aware or more conscious of their mistakes or in what areas they have problems. When they compare, they translate and then they compare their text against the original text and at the end of the lesson. So now I will show you how I did this in class and some versions of the students. So now I will show you the Arabic version of the same text that you have produced. Look and see whether you or to what extent that the pair of students was successful in this translation. Okay, so now when you show the students the text, give them a just task to get or to have the main ideas of the text, and then you ask them to translate into Arabic. So this is what the students produced, and this is, I think, quite good. It's not perfect, but quite good, because at this level they are not professional. Now you give, for example, 5 minutes or 7 minutes for students to do this into the first language. While the students are working on their translations, you are doing nothing. The teacher does not interfere at all, because this is not a controlled practice and you help students. No, this is a kind of diagnostic testing. So leave students work on their own in pairs. They can use resources like dictionaries, no problem. Because here it's not about only vocabulary, it's about word order or a lot of things, prepositions. So dictionaries are okay to use. Okay, so after students finish this, or while students are doing, the teacher is doing nothing, and he can sleep, because during this time he does nothing at all. Of course he will not sleep, but he can if he wishes. Yeah, he's doing nothing. He's almost doing nothing during this time. He's passive, not active. Okay, so after students finish, the teacher wakes up and then asks students to translate back. He gives a piece of instruction, translate back into English without looking at the original text. So students start doing this in pairs too. Of course, the text should not be very long in order not to be demotivating for students. So students do this in pairs or in small groups. And then after that, or during that time, we give them, for example, 10 minutes, because it's more demanding for students to translate into second language than into first language. So you give them 10 minutes, and during this 10 minutes, you are doing nothing. You can sleep. Of course, you will not sleep, but you can, because you are almost doing nothing. Okay, so after the 10 minutes, you wake up and you give another piece of instructions. You say, okay, now this, you display the original text, or you hand out worksheets with the original text, and then you ask students to compare their versions of the text with the or against the original text, and they check, or they find out what difference there are in their texts. So for example, I will show you now a version, or the English version of the same pair. We have produced the Arabic one that you have just seen, and this is the English version. I want you to read this version and find what are the main problems in this version. How are they different from the original one? So please pause, look, think about problems, and replay. Sorry. Okay, so now if we look here, or this is the same thing that happens while students are comparing. So you ask your students to compare and find out what differences are there, and think why these mistakes happen. So here we have a common problem here, which is the omission of the definite article, the. Students forget this. Now, when they compare and find out that this problem, they become more conscious about the use of that while they are writing. Okay, this is one. Another one, when here last match, of course this is the definite, but also here the word last. So in the original text it was final. And here the problem comes from the interference of the first language, actually, because here in Arabic we have both words have the same meaning, last and final. And here the problem is with the register. So when we talk about sport, we use final rather than last. Also, students become aware of this. Although they have the same meaning in their first language, they are different. They have different usage. Another common problem here is the word order. So here the learners, or the pair of learners, wrote won Uruguay on Argentina. Yes, he started with the verb, because in Arabic we can start with the verb and we can start with the noun. But in English, we cannot start with the verb. This is why this problem. The problem is repeated in the sentence now exist 32 countries. So when students compare and discuss why these mistakes happen, they become more aware of the reasons why they make these kinds of mistakes. This helps them a lot to improve. Another problem here is the problem with collocation. So did the competition. So did the competition, we don't say did the competition in English, it is in the original text, it's held on the competition. But because did can do this, the same meaning in Arabic, can collocate with competition in Arabic. So this is the kind of interference of the first language. When students compare and discuss the reasons for this or for these mistakes, followed by a discussion with the whole class and the teacher, this raises their consciousness of these errors and why they make these errors, which helps them a lot to improve their interlanguage and avoid these errors later. So this kind of translation is very effective in terms of helping students to find out about their issues and trying to address them. Hope this is useful. Thank you so much and meet you next week.